said what?
How could they do something like that?
Are you serious?
What a thirsty MFer.
Not good. She's absolutely dead to me.
That's because she died.
I'm Sterling Mulberry.
And I'm Blair Payton. And welcome to
Bad Behavior, a morally questionable podcast.
We're two unqualified friends,
Two unhinged comedians,
determine once and for all what is good
and what is bad.
Hello, and welcome to Bad Behavior. It's me, Blair Payton.
And me, Sterling Mulberry. Blair, you're so chipper, which I'm shocked to my core about because of what happened to you last night.
Well, the second I hit record, I turn on, baby. But when you see the video, you can probably see the exhaustion in my eyes.
You have the death in your eyes.
I have full death. So a friend of mine, he actually did the photography for Bad Behavior Podcast and our live show. Sean Castelluccio, a shout out.
There you go.
He was like, hey, what are you doing Sunday night? And I was like, absolutely nothing. He was like, well, let's meet up. Let's go have some drinks and see a comedy show. And I was like, okay, great. Turns out the comedy show is an open mic.
An open mic is not a comedy show.
It is in a sense. When I got there, first of all, I was on time. He was late. He was like, let's meet at 6:30. And each time he would text me, he was like, okay, 6:45. Okay, let's make it 7. And I was like, dude, I'm already here. And I was sitting by myself and I was like, I texted you. I was like, hey, I'm the audience at a comedy show. This is fun. And so they got up and performed. And like, honestly, all of them, they were good. You know, they did their thing.
But why would you go and see an open mic?
Well, Sean does photography, obviously, and he was going...
For the open mic?
Well, they're trying to promote it and get people to come out and other comedians to participate. It's very new. They just launched it.
Oh.
So he was coming to take pictures, and he just wanted to hang out. And he was like... And also, they were really fun, which honestly, they were really fun. I think I'm best friends with... When I get drunk, I get super chatty and best friends with... I have a bunch of new Instagram followers. Guys, I'm living the life. But the funniest thing about this open mic, there was this guy performing, okay? Now,
I'm scared.
He was hot.
Uh-huh.
He was giving the vibe like Wall Street finance, like that kind of vibe.
Oh, your type.
Yeah, absolutely. Like he would be mean to me.
Famously, as we learned on this podcast, your type is a toxic straight male.
Yeah.
Was he wearing like a zip up or something?
He was.
Ew, Blair. You're so gross. Okay.
He had dark, kind of wavy hair. He was wearing a ball cap.
Was he like gelled hair?
No.
Okay.
He was relaxed, but it was feathered. It was I was into it. I was into it hard.
Yeah, I'm sure you
He was
were.
there with his girlfriend. But here's the thing. He was not a comedian. He came in and was very chatty and was talking to the dude who was like doing a set. And the guy was like, do you just want to come up and do stand up? And he was like, yeah, let me try it. So he just gets up there and tries stand up. And it was, spoiler alert, terrible. But I was like so into him that it didn't matter because I was like, I'm going to marry him.
I don't understand why you're interested in people like this. You're interested in
called
a straight
being
man
damaged.
from Wall Street who is the type of person to go to an open mic.
I mean, I'm not saying I have
This is my
good
worst
taste.
night. This is my worst nightmare. Not even in a love interest way, in just general, any one way.
Oh, I mean, truly, it was uncomfortable because you could tell he was like, yeah, I've got the looks, I got the job, I can do comedy.
Ew. And you're like, marry me, baby.
I was like, marry me, I'm taking off my pants for you, babes.
Your pants were off at this open mic.
My pants were off and I was drinking an IPA. The rest of the night is kind of a blur because I just kept drinking IPAs all night.
Yeah, don't do that. It's actually randomly, they're really high in alcohol. I have been having this thing where literally I'm like going out and then I have 2 beers and I'm like, I'm blurry eyed. I'm like, what's going on? I only had 2 drinks. And
I had like
they're
6
IPAs.
or 7.
7 IPAs? How could you even drink that much? Like, it's like tummy wise. Like, that's just so much liquid.
Oh, I crammed it in there, baby. And then I got delicious quesadillas from the bodega around the corner. So I'm sloppily eating that at 2 a.m. and I collapse on my couch and I wake up and it's hot as hell and I'm wearing my jeans and you're texting me a million times getting ready for the show today.
I texted probably you 12 text messages in a row. I think we have a close enough friendship that I would say there's no amount of texts that's too many, right?
Well, when you're hungover, there is.
That was too many.
I just kept giving thumbs ups and hearting what she said.
He just emphasized. He didn't reply to literally any message. It was just the emphasis.
It was so many text messages.
It was a lot of texts. I want to say I had a very different evening last night.
Okay.
My big event of last night was that I cleaned my bedroom, which I like to clean Sunday nights, And I have a cactus in my bedroom. And I love having a cactus. Like living in California, I'm like, okay, so many good house plants you can have because of the weather. I will say having a cactus in your bedroom is risky. One of the little buds from the cactus had fallen off. And my cactus doesn't really have like spikes. I pick up this little bud. It's like little to put it in the trash. I forget about needles in cactus. And I have literally like 50 spikes. I have 50 little tiny needles in all my fingers still. It's not an ideal way to start your week.
Wow, we had 2 very different nights.
That is the risk you get when you have cactus in your room and when you drink 7 IPAs on a Sunday night. And those are that is kind of the difference between us. That's like the start here game. What a weekend we both had. And I'm so excited we can kind of start off this week on a new note, different note. We're so excited for our guest today. You know him from his most recent special, Vacation Baby, as well as his Netflix special, Warn Your Relatives, and his famous documentary, The Problem with Apu. Please welcome our guest today, Hari Kondabolu.
Well, Hari, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We're happy to have you.
Oh my God, it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
So on our show, we like to ask every guest how they handle conflict.
It really depends in so many different contexts, right? Like I feel like often, especially as I've gotten older, I think I de-escalate a lot. Everybody calm down. It's going to be okay. Let's break down the situation, you know? But I think the thing that has changed, I think I was definitely a lot more like unable to listen during a conflict and more explosive when I was younger. And now I think I'm much more of like listening.
So was that like a natural progression over time, or was it like a turning point, like when you became a parent?
That's therapy.
Therapy. Okay.
That's therapy.
Yeah, the classic.
There is no, this wasn't naturally developed into somebody who is able to listen to the other side and talk through it and try to find, Nah. That took years of understanding yourself and probably understanding other people and their tendencies and your tendencies. And part of it might be just because I'm 40 now and I just don't like loud sounds. So if we could just kind of get it down.
Mm-hmm. Is that what happens when you hit 40? The decibel, it's too much.
There are definitely things I can't hear. I feel like I'm told, like, did you hear that? And I'm like, absolutely not.
I want to ask, so since having a kid, how old is your kid now?
2.5.
2.5. Okay. So, I mean, we do not have children, Blair and I, yet, but I feel like the interactions, I'm sure, with like other parents, like that's a whole different style of like, you have a kid, it's obviously a very young kid, but like, have you been in any situations? I feel like when I used to like babysit or whatever, which I'm sure is very different, but like either your kid is like done something bad or something else like to other kids, but and then it's like that parent reaction. Has that been kind of like a funny thing to kind of navigate?
Well, it's weird because like I'm like, well, why'd you push that kid? And it's like, he's a kid. The other kid could have pushed him. Like it almost feels like an immediate indictment of you as a parent. And also, like, I don't want my kid to hurt your kid, and I don't know what he's gonna do. So, you know, like but yeah, you start to realize, you know, the thing I've gotten is like other parents, especially when their kids are around the same age, understand. But like when you're a parent, it's like, it's as if like it's the biggest sin by your kid doing this because you failed in some way. And so I think we all kind of wear that in different ways.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Blair, before we jump into our game, I do have one little other question. We both loved your special Vacation Baby, and I wanted to ask, you go over this bit again, I don't want to spoil it, it's amazing, about AOC DMing you on Twitter.
Oh, brother, yeah.
Since the special's been released, has there been any contact from AOC's camp?
Yes. No, from AOC.
Oh, really?
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
This is how you know Twitter isn't a big deal anymore, because it happened on Twitter and nobody knows. She wrote back, I apologized. I put a clip up of that story and I apologized to her. Yeah. And she wrote back and says, I'm glad I made for great material and it's totally fine. And, she wrote me on a DM and I wrote back and just saying like, you have no idea. My partner, my parents, my friends, like none of them have ever forgiven me. And I'm so embarrassed. And it was ego more than anything. I was making that documentary about Apu that I made a few years ago. And I had a Netflix special I was prepping for. So to me, there was nothing nothing more important than those two things. Who on earth was going to ask me for something when I am this busy? What are you going to be, the most influential politician of the next decade or more? And honestly, it was one of those moments where I'm like, God damn. This is the problem when your business is you and your ego and all the thoughts you have in your head. You can't see past yourself sometimes because, like, you know, when I first started doing stand-up and I was a immigrant rights organizer, I was 23, 24, 25. If a politician who was doing incredible stuff, who actually is working in one of the neighborhoods I grew up in, is asking me to do something, I don't question it. I think, yeah, this is a great collaboration and let's try to make something happen. And, oh, this is so cool that you thought of me. You know, you're in this 20 years, you're exhausted and trying to make ends meet. And the little bits that you've collected for yourself, like they keep you on some sense of this is going somewhere. And all of a sudden this person reaches out to you and it's like, don't you know what I'm doing right now? I am so busy. I cannot. Like, sure, why don't you reach out later? See if I'm free later. Like, the audacity.
I feel like also calling her Alexis is so iconic.
The truth of the matter is I actually called her Alexandra as opposed to Alexandria.
Dria. Oh, but Alexis is kind of a better for a
It's funny, like the subtlety. That's one of the few things I lied about in that joke was the name, just because like I wanted to make it bigger.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I was so. I mean, it's one of my better and worst traits, which is tunnel vision. Like it lets me get things done when I'm really passionate and focused, but at the same time, like there's this incredible human being that's reaching out to you.
That's insane.
Who wants your help. I've talked about this now on CNN, MSNBC, and it was covered in the Hill newspaper, which is Capitol Hill's newspaper. And I'm like, it's like Kondabolu makes amends to Ocasio-Cortez. And I'm like, my last name? Really?
Feel the whoa with Listerine at BJ's. You can save $2.50 now on Listerine products like Total Care Anti-Cavity Fluoride Fresh Mint Mouthwash or Cool Mint Pocket Packs Fresh Breath Strips at your nearest BJ's location. Experience the feeling of a million germs zapped in seconds with Listerine. Discount available through December 24th. Save now only at BJ's.
Attention car shoppers. Right now at South Carolina Federal Credit Union, you can get a new or used auto loan and pay nothing until 2024, and no payments for 90 days means nothing out of pocket going into the new year. Plus, we have flexible rates and terms, so you could make the best financial choice for you. Learn more at scfederal.org/auto loans. That's scfederal.org/auto loans. Certain restrictions apply. Existing South Carolina Federal credit loans are excluded.
So we have a game we like to play on this podcast called Heaven or Hell. And this is where on a scale of 1 being hell, 10 being heaven, where you rank these kind of different behaviors. Now, because your special is called Vacation Baby, which isn't quite about vacations, but we just decided you're a traveling comedian and you probably take lots of airplanes.
Many airplanes.
We wanted to go over kind of vacation traveling etiquette and these different behaviors. Blair, do you want to take us away with number 1?
Sure. A person removing their shoes on a flight.
Hell,
okay.
Unless it is, because I've removed my shoes and then put on the special socks that sometimes I give in first.
Oh, hold on. You get special socks?
Sometimes. When I was a Diamond member of Delta, this is before the pandemic, and it's funny, I still sometimes like, oh, I miss being a Diamond. I'm like, oh, you miss being away from your friends and family so much, they gave you a reward? Here's your reward for being a bad son and boyfriend. But when I had that status, I'd sometimes get bumped up to Delta 1, which is where they have the seats that recline all the way back. It's not just first, but like it turns into a bed, and they'll give you champagne for no clear reason when you get in. It's like one of those, but they would give you a kit where there would be like socks that you could wear and like moisturizer and all this really like kind of nice stuff.
What kind of socks? Were they like the really soft ones you can get at Ulta?
No, they weren't. They were like, they weren't that great.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like a couple of washes and they'd get destroyed, but it was just the idea of like, oh yes, my specialty first class socks, right? I wouldn't do this all the time. I'd normally, because at a certain point, I'm like, after the first few times of doing it, I'm like, this is stupid. I just have to take it off with my other socks back. I'm like, this is dumb. But the first few times when I got that, I'm like, this is cool. I'm going to live the whole experience. And you realize a lot of it is just really just, can you sleep comfortably in the seat or not? I stopped doing that because what I would do is I would take those packs and I would like save them and eventually started donating them to homeless people and stuff, just because they had like toothbrushes and paste and all this other stuff in it. I used to like wait till everybody left Delta One or first class, and I would start grabbing other people's that they didn't use, because if they're not going to use them. And so one time I was doing that, and I asked the flight attendant, like, hey, can you grab, are there any more you could potentially give me, just because I give them to homeless people? And she's like, I don't know if this company's going to be comfortable with you doing that to their brand. And I'm like, really? Are you part of the company? Are you part of Toomey? Like, what on earth are you talking about? This is plastic. It's made of plastic.
Yeah.
This is beyond. You've lost a sense of humanity. You forgot what it's like to be on the ground because you've been in the air so long.
Yeah, too long. Okay, the person next to you on a plane trying to start a conversation with you.
You know, it's either heaven that turns into hell or hell that turns into heaven. It really depends on who the person is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because sometimes I've had a comment like, oh, we're going to do this now. And it ends up being this incredible, like one time I was sitting next to a former pilot who explained all the bumps to me and what all the different like turbulence meant and stuff. Now, granted, to him, I might have been the hell passenger. You know, like, I don't know how because he might have started a conversation. I don't remember. I probably kept going with it, which he didn't anticipate. So, but I've also had times where I'm like, oh, you're going to Madison because your kid's a cheerleader and you go to all the games and you fly in from New York and oh, you hate Trump? Okay, let's keep, all right, I like you now. Okay, well, but you have no issues with DeSantis? Oh, what a waste of time this has been. So it varies, but
it varies.
I always just go straight in where I'm like, I don't want to talk. I'm sleeping on this flight. I want to get it over with because I'm already anxious to be on the plane, so I want to be over with.
Oh, I try to go to sleep pretty immediately.
All right. Number 3, your travel companion insisting on not using the moving walkway to get their steps in.
You know what? That doesn't bother me because I feel like oftentimes, especially after flying for a long time, like walking feels good. And also it's the lie you tell yourself after the garbage you ate at the airport. It's like, well, this'll even it out. This'll make up for that Cinnabon at O'Hare.
That's very factual. Last time I traveled, I had Wendy's, and God, I love Wendy's. But, I had to walk to my flight, and I was like, this is balanced now. I did it.
It's like almost like it doesn't count. It's like, this is like a non-space. We're like in this weird, like, what is it called?
Limbo?
Purgatory. Where calories don't count, where everything is just on hold. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Traveling with your baby on a flight. Is it heaven if it's under 2 because you can travel with them for free? Or is it hell because ultimately you are traveling with a baby?
It's hell for everybody. It's hell for the parents. It's hell for the kid. It's hell for all the other passengers. Then it's a matter of how you deal with that hellish situation. You know, when I was a parent taking a red eye, when I was single taking a red eye, no kids, it was like, why are you doing this to everyone? Like, we came to sleep. This is our chance to sleep. And the first thing in the morning we have to do it then. So we took the red eye. Mm-hmm. And you brought a baby. And then, after we realized, you're like, they're people too. And they also have to do things. And they have a kid. And then you're like, well, they didn't. And then you think, like, what would, a jerk say? Well, it's not my fault they got a kid. And then it's like, oh, it's not my fault. They've decided to continue the human race, something that all our parents have done. And like, what am I talking about? And then I had a kid, and, he's flown a lot because, we're from New York. But during the pandemic, when we had the kid, we had him in San Diego where it seemed a little safer. Like, everything was more spread out. Uh-huh. And so we had to, like, when he was 3 months, he was already on a plane heading back to New York. And that first trip, like, he was screaming his head off. He's 3 months old. We're on a plane. Obviously, it's hell for us. We've never experienced flying with a baby. And it's that mix of embarrassment, but don't be embarrassed. Who gives a shit? It's your kid, and like all those feelings. And then we get up, and there's I should also we were upgraded luckily to Delta One.
Oh, congrats!
You got the socks.
No, but that is why, because people don't expect babies to be up there, and some people don't think babies should be up there. Mm-hmm. Wow. Though for me, it was like great. Like, we have more room. It's easier to sleep with the kid, right? Because you can lie down. And we get up, and there's 2 people ahead of us, and somebody said like, how's the flight for you? It's like, it was a little loud, and then they just stared at us. I'm like, do you think I can't hear you? Do you think I'm unable to hear you and decipher that side eye right now? And granted, I didn't respond, so technically he probably did assume that. But like,
you could have just spun it and just been like, "You're welcome." Like, yes.
Or like, right.
I did that. You're welcome.
Well, I hope you never have children and everyone you know is barren. That would be the other way to
right.
Just been that.
Many options.
Go all in. It was just kind of like, I feel more sympathy obviously now than I ever did. And I started to, especially the last few years, even before I had a kid, just because like I had friends who had kids. And I'm like, this is not easy. Like, it's hard being a parent. And now I'm like, do you realize how hard it is to leave the house or do anything as a family or alone or with somebody? Like, there's always something that makes it hard.
Yeah.
And now you're on a plane, which is one of the worst things. You're in a tube in the sky and you have this kid screaming and you're dealing with the kid screaming. His ears hurt. Your ears hurt. Everyone else's ears hurt because the baby's screaming. Like, there's a million. I'm never going to finish this movie, which is probably a low end thing. Yeah. But like, still, like, there's a million things.
Feel the whoa with Listerine at BJ's. You can save $2.50 now on Listerine products like Total Care Anti-Cavity Fluoride Fresh Mint Mouthwash or Cool Mint Pocket Packs Fresh Breath Strips at your nearest BJ's location. Experience the feeling of a million germs zapped in seconds with Listerine. Discount available through December 24th. Save now, only at BJ's.
The Home Depot tiene regalos para crear alegría navideña y hacer todos tus proyectos con mucha pila. Aprovecha los ahorros de Black Friday. Compra un kit de baterías básico seleccionado y llévate una herramienta elegible gratis. Así tienes más potencia para tus proyectos navideños. Porque tu manera de celebrar las fiestas nos inspira. The Home Depot. Haces más. Logras más. Oferta válida en tiendas participantes y por internet del 23 de octubre de 2023 al 28 de enero de 2024. Una por transacción. El descuento se aplica al pagar. La lista de herramientas elegibles está disponible en tienda y por internet.
Well, should we jump into the story if you're ready?
This is something I regret very much. And I think it also speaks to some of the things I was saying before about not having perspective and the risk of like talking about things you care about as being self-righteous, right? As a comedian, if you don't supply a punchline, it's very frustrating because you've shared this incredible point, but it is not in, like, you didn't make me laugh, so you wasted my time. There's something to be said about like making sure what you're saying is funny, but also like having the humility to know that you're not perfect. And so there was a moment I think I forgot that, and I was looking at it now. I've apologized to the person since. I was at a show in Brooklyn, and there was a young South Asian American comedian on, and she was talking about her parents, and she did the thick accent and like the whole thing, like the whole like old school, like, I'm going to get the laughs, whether it's at the content of the joke or the accent. I got two chances to get the laugh. And to me, I'm like, I don't do that. Because like, I don't want to do, like, it's, hey, you've laughed at my parents. Let me bring the laughter you have at my parents to the stage. Like, I don't want to do that to them. Plus, I don't even have a good Indian accent, so it would be even worse if I attempted to do it. So, there's no reason to do it. And I've seen other people do it, and I've also seen other people do it where, like, that's a brilliant joke, and the accent's so subtle and well done. It's, like, not just a goofy voice to make people laugh. It's, like, you actually got the tone right and the diction. And I clearly, when I hear this, I'm like, your mother's from Bombay. She got taught in Bombay boarding schools. That sounds like that's so one thing versus like, everyone's laughing, right? So she does the whole thing. She gets her laughs. And I have to follow her. And it brought up all these feelings about, this is before I made that documentary. This is like 2013 or something like that, like a decade ago. And I'm just thinking about all the other times, like, I have been on stage and audiences had a certain expectation of me to do that voice, and I didn't do the voice. It's not really what I do. And the precedent that set, or like the millions of times I got made fun of and other brown people got made fun of for using that voice. And now I got to follow this shit. So initially I'm like, just put it to the side. You got a job to do. So I fucking do the first couple of jokes. I'm doing well. And then I just bite into that. Like, did you guys hear that joke? And I just like bit into her joke and to what she was saying. And this is, again, is the importance. If I had a punchline at the end of that rant, I would have been forgiven in some sense.
Yeah.
Like, at least it got somewhere. I didn't. I was just pissed off. And then I had to go back to my act, which, it's like, you've already shown us your cars. You're an asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You can't try to make us like you.
Yeah.
This person's still she's still there, and she's heard you say this, and you said it and I wasn't nice, and it was one of those, like, I could have not said anything, just done my stand-up and let other people see a comparison of two very different acts and see what they like and why. If the person asked me what I thought, I could be honest with them if that's what they're asking, but they didn't ask, obviously, and they wouldn't have after that. There's a million other ways I could have handled that. The most important being, be funny, be your best self, and go home. Because at the end of the day, that's what people are going to respond to counter anything you dislike with what you do care about. And I did not do that. It wasn't. I remember going home and my girlfriend at the time, telling her, and I thought she was going to have my side.
That's the worst.
Like, I thought she was going to be like, it's ridiculous in this day and age. She's like, you just sound like an asshole. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, don't you understand? Maybe you don't get what I'm saying. And I'm like, and she's like, no, that was mean. And I refused to admit it was mean for months. In my head, I after I finally, might have been years, post-therapy, I thought about that, and I thought about, like, who the fuck was I? Who the fuck did I think I was? What gave me the right? Or the fact that when I was 19, there was tons of stuff I said on stage because either I didn't know any better, didn't have other material, I was 19, this is what I thought comedy was, that if people saw it today, I would be embarrassed to all shit by. Like, humiliated by. So who the hell am I to judge another person? But at the time, I was totally like, yeah, this is what you get. We're going to stand up for ourselves, and we're not going to put up, does your mother know you do this? She's probably embarrassed. I was like, I didn't say that, but in my head, I was
what was some of the stuff you did say on the stage, or do you even feel comfortable resharing?
Oh, I don't even remember, but it was probably something about, like, making all this progress and you got to set us back X number of years, the usual. Like, and I have to follow that shit with my, I definitely did that. I probably definitely did that. That sounds like a me thing that I would do. Like, I got to follow that ridiculous voice with thoughts and feelings and intricate ideas that have been well thought out. Okay, that's fair. Something like that.
So would you say, like, the moral conundrum of this situation was, like, as you said, like, is it okay to kind of take a stance if there is, like, a joke in there, which there, like, I guess there wasn't, because I can totally understand kind of both sides, and, like, now the retrospective of being like, you're like, I would never do that now.
If I got people to laugh, it would have justified it in the room, but I still would have been in the wrong, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The actual argument and thing I was saying, I still don't disagree with. I do think that, like, you're not doing anybody any favors, in addition to the fact that joke didn't have anything to it. Like, if you have a good joke and you're adding an embellishment, then to me, it's like, this is part of performance. And, that took me a while to get to, but I'm like, the idea that we're not allowed to represent our parents and our families in multiple ways is also unfair, right? I don't do it, but let's say you do it well and it's part of it. Why can't you, but if you don't really have a joke and this is straight up, my parents are wacky immigrants, then I would still probably think less of your stand-up, and I still would, like, that's a shame, but that's not what the issue was. To me, like, I felt I was in the moral right in terms of my point of view, but
the execution was a little...
Yeah, that's the question. Like, was that right?
I can tell you've been stewing on this for, since it happened.
A decade.
Okay, so
just a decade.
Just a little bit of time. If you could go back, do you know what the joke would be to kind of fix the situation?
I probably did, like, what I could have said instead, but I don't think I don't think I had anything. I think whatever it would have been mean anyway. Even, and that's the thing, it would have been funny probably, but it would have been mean. At the end of the day, it's like, it's not worth it. Like, it doesn't really, it's just, and also, like, I've thought about it so many ways since then. I'm like, okay, you're a South Asian comedian. Guess what? The only other South Asian in the room is me. And that's what annoyed me about your act. But at the same time, from your perspective, the only other South Asian in this room is him, and I don't have his support. And it's hard enough to go up there, and he doesn't even have my back. And it's a South Asian woman, and I've been doing comedy a lot longer. And this person I already knew existed before I got up here, it just treated me terribly.
I very much relate because I've been doing a lot of mics recently. And I think, like, the person who goes up in front of you, obviously, sometimes it's random, and even at shows, right? You don't really have a ton of control over that. And I think there is this kind of feeling that's like hard to describe where you are like, hey, why'd you do that to me? Like, even though they have nothing to do with you, like, to be in a room where I've definitely been in rooms where like someone's making an uncomfortable joke or like something that you're like, ugh, one, I have to get the audience back on my side. I'm also annoyed that the audience even laughed at that. So I just like, there's so many quick feelings.
Oh, I have literally said that to an audience. I have literally gone on stage.
Yeah, I mean, but I also understand it's like, I do like that style of comedy that's like, I know everything, I'm in the moral high ground, like that is like, oh my goodness, you know, like that is that fine line of like, yeah, you have something to say and you want to come across in that way, but like you don't want to come across too in that way that you're like, I know more than everyone in this room.
No. For one, it's like me learning like really doing a deep dive into humility for myself and the idea that like, as if I've been perfect, as if, you know, I somehow control what's right and wrong. And, you know, there's a certain piece. There's professional respect that even if you disagree with what you're hearing, we're all doing the same job. I have been at a show where I've had to follow someone doing some of the most hacky racial material before. I remember I handled it like not quite as harsh. I think what I said was hack comics exist because of hack audiences. And guess what? I didn't win them back.
Really?
Should have closed on it.
Surprised.
I would have felt sweet talk too. I would be like, this guy.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, just do what you do. You know, you don't need, it's like, do what you do and do it to the best of your ability. And reprimanding and scolding people is not going to change a paradigm or an idea. It's like showing another way of doing it, you know. Plus, I made a documentary. That's how you address it. You do it in this way where you can think it out and actually make a real argument without like being a complete and utter asshole.
What was the interaction like with the comic after?
I mean, I didn't see her. I left. I think she must have left at some point. I mean, I ended up messaging her again. Like, I don't even remember if it was a year or months. Like, but I was very apologetic, and I'm like, that's no way for you to be treated. You should expect better from me. And, you know.
And what did she say?
She should expect better from me. She forgave me for it, which I think took a really big person. I think ultimately, like, the issue wasn't the material. The bigger issue became, like, what is your responsibility as a fellow performer? What's your responsibility of someone from the same community? What's your responsibility as, like, you know, older brother? Like, this is somebody who's younger than I am, who's doing comedy, and like, I'm established and she's figuring it out. And is that the way to make a point? Like, everything about that, because I think about the people that were and were not there for me at different points in my life when I was still am on my journey, like as a performer and as a writer, and how would I have reacted to that? Not well, you know. It would have put me in a hole for sure. Like, it wouldn't have been a good thing. So, yeah.
Okay, Blair, do you have any?
I think I have my judgment. How are you feeling?
Okay. Okay. Do you want to kick us off, Blair, then?
Yes. You know what? After hearing your story, I'm going to say good behavior. Because, yeah. I'm going to say good behavior.
Okay.
Even though you were on stage and you kind of made them feel uncomfortable, you were educating these people. And that's what's going to stick out with these people. They're going to remember that. Not some, you know, like polite way of saying, hey, you should be this, this, and this. Right. They're going to remember that. I think it was an education moment for everyone involved. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's those moments that stick out in life. So you've been thinking about it for a while, and you made peace. Yeah. You did everything you could to make everything correct. So I'm saying good behavior. You did it, baby.
Blair, I think you're right, and I think I'm going to retract my apology.
Yeah, message her now and say, "Ma'am, I take it back."
She's actually going to jump on the Zoom really quick. No, can you imagine? I actually kind of feel similar to Blair. and again, it's not that I think we agree that it was good behavior in the situation, but I think it can also lead in good behavior. And one, you talked about how this was like before your documentary. Like, I think in some ways, if you potentially had reacted like cool, calm, and collected in that situation, it could have like not spurred you to take action in these other parts of life. In like, oh, is there a way I can kind of communicate my message in a different form, aka documentary, or like it spurred you maybe to go to therapy, and these different ways of like having that arc if like you'd never kind of like had that reaction, which again wasn't like an amazing reaction to have, which you understood, it like then like didn't help you evolve into becoming like the person you are today.
That's true.
Potentially. Our way of spinning things.
That's a nice spin.
Oprah Winfrey calls these aha moments. And you had an aha moment.
Oh,
there you go.
I like that.
Okay, so we can officially deem you
good behavior.
Wow.
Okay, so if you just have a couple minutes, we have a little reward for you.
Are the people always harder on themselves than the two of you are?
Yeah. I mean, I would say most people come in and they usually say this. They actually tell a hero's journey where they say, I did something terrible. There's a cat in a tree. I saved it, but I broke a branch. And we're like, oh, you're a hero. Like, they tell stories in which they are so... I was like, you guys just want us to clap for you.
How dare you? How dare
Then we really twist it and we say bad.
You're attacking nature. You broke a tree that can no longer...
But I would say most people honestly just tell stories where they're heroes.
Yeah. So
It's very funny.
So... a gift me and Sterling would absolutely love to receive this. But because we haven't received it yet, we want to pay it forward and give it to our guests. And the ultimate gift in life is truly a compliment from your therapist. Just a genuine, like, hey, we see you. So that, my friend, is your reward today. Wow, that was exemplary behavior. You should be so proud of yourself. Your family and friends should be proud too. And I know I shouldn't say this, but I am so proud of you.
And that really fit this scenario exactly because your friends and family were really proud of you, as you talked about. So
you just go back and tell them you were educating, you know?
My God. I had therapy right before this session, by the way. Right before this session. I'm still using the word session. Before this taping. And so it's funny. Sometimes she'll say like, God, I'm sorry, but that was really funny, which is hard when I'm like, that wasn't a joke. That is my life. And it's like, and she'll be like, no, it's just how you delivered it. It's just how you delivered it. It's not the content.
I have to say, my therapist has said that to me sometimes too. And like, even though I'm crying, I'm like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
Let me write this down.
That's exactly. Like, you don't understand what you've contributed to. Yeah, I treated this like a session. I confessed something. I was very honest.
Well,
I feel like I made some progress. I'm going to retract an apology, which is overdue.
Okay. And let us know how it goes. We want to follow up on that.
Well, before we wrap up, can you tell listeners where they can find you? Anything upcoming to plug and all that jazz?
So I'll be in Chicago doing shows at the Den Theater, then a week of shows from Morgantown, West Virginia, which I wanted to do because it's in West Virginia and I've never done West Virginia. And also I heard the audiences are nice is how I'll fix that. Columbus, Louisville, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Toronto. So I'm floating around in June, and plus my special vacation baby is on YouTube for free, and I'm really proud of it.
And that's our show. Thanks so much for listening today.
We absolutely hate to do this. We hate it.
But it would mean the world to us if you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts, rate and review.
Follow us at Bad Behavior NYC on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks again for listening.
And remember, whatever your moral status, we are always here to judge.
Bye.
Do you think that was good?
Ah, Feel the whoa with Listerine at BJ's. You can save $2.50 now on Listerine products like Total Care Anti-Cavity Fluoride Fresh Mint Mouthwash or Cool Mint Pocket Packs Fresh Breath Strips at your nearest BJ's location. Experience the feeling of a million germs zapped in seconds with Listerine. Discount available through December 24th. Save now, only at BJ's.
Are you the creative type? Then you already know lots of cool things Photoshop can do, like create eye-popping images for social and gorgeous graphics for t-shirts and posters. But did you also know it can instantly turn a gray sky into a fiery sunset, change black and white to color in a click, or make anything in your photo magically disappear? Maybe you're wondering, can anyone use Photoshop to take images from ordinary to amazing? Nope, everyone can. Visit Photoshop.com and get started for free.